Hi friends, it's Mitzi. I wanted to delve into Synastry today. Synastry is an astrological compatibility reading that is done when you take one person's natal chart and you overlay it with another person's natal chart to try to determine what their energy towards each other is, what the attraction level between them is, potential areas of that could be challenging, potential areas that could be easy to work with. So I thought I would use long-term couple Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr., who've been together and married for 18 years, as my Synastry couple to explore. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up their chart. Let's look at the Synastry overview of Sarah Michelle Gellar and her man, Freddie Prinze Jr. Okay, so this is what their Synastry chart looks like, right? But Freddie is outside in red. Here's Freddie. Michelle is in the middle. These lines in the middle are the aspects that each other's planetary alignments form, right? This is a closer look at their aspects. So just a quick note, Freddie's date of birth is rated AA by the Rodden rating, which is the rating that astrologists use to verify accuracy. So Sarah Michelle Gellar's birth time is unknown, so we're using the standard noon, which means that her houses are inaccurate. However, there are some planetary positions that don't change. So Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, for example, were in those signs when she was born. The degrees will change once we know what her house is, but the signs themselves will not. All right, so what do we see? So right away, we see that Sarah's Sun right here and her Venus fall in Freddie's 7th house of marriage. Her moon falls in his 5th house. Her Mercury in Taurus falls in his 8th house, right? So does her Jupiter. And so does her Lilith. Her Mars, right? Her Mars is all the way over here, falls in his 6th house. Okay. Her Saturn's all the way over here, falls in his 10th. Uranus, but again, we're not going to, Uranus falls in his 2nd, but her Neptune falls, let's see, her Neptune is right here. Neptune falls in his 3rd. Her Pluto falls in his 4th. And then on his side, his Sun falls in her 8th. His Moon and his Mars fall in her 11th. His Venus falls in her 7th house of relationships. His Jupiter, where's his Jupiter? There it is. Falls into her 10th. His Saturn falls into her 12th. His Uranus falls in her 4th. His Neptune in her 5th. And his Pluto in her 3rd. But what do we see? Right off the bat, his Sun conjuncts her Moon and Mars. There's his Sun, and it's right next to her Moon and Mars. Her Sun sextiles his Moon because it's in Aries. So Aries and Gemini, his Moon is in Gemini, gets along quite well, right? It also conjuncts his Jupiter. Her Sun sextiles his Mercury. There's his Mercury. It also sextiles his Venus, his Mars. Look at his 7th house. It's so busy, and her Sun touches all of these things, including multiple asteroids, Vertex and Chiron. This is very bonding, very bonding. There's his North Node, You know, her sun really activates his relationship house. So you can see that when they first met, he must have been just blown away and wanting to commit, right? Or at least have a conversation about partnerships. They must have talked about partnerships right away, because this is a major activation that's happening in this house. Their moon square, her moon is in Pisces and his moon is in Gemini, so they square. It's a 5-degree orb, so there's some tension, but they have such great sextiles, right? Like, look at all the stuff her sun sextiles, like we just mentioned, Mercury, Venus, Mars. These are important planets of love and communication, and she forms harmonious aspects with them. And she also trines his north node. Sorry, typo there, I wrote bode, but she trines his north node, and that is important. That's almost like this karmic feeling. So despite their emotional challenges that a moon square moon can bring, the fact that her sun, her ego, can put him at ease, can put his communication at ease, his emotions at ease, his love language at ease, the way he, is proactive and asserts himself at ease, bodes incredibly well for long-term relationships. Okay. So now I mentioned Mercury. So now I'm going to look closely at their Mercury, at their Venus, at their Pluto aspects, okay? So Freddie's Mercury in 29 degrees Aquarius is actually a lot closer in energy to Piscean energy. Therefore, it sextiles Sarah's Mercury in Taurus. Here's her Mercury in Taurus. Here's his Mercury in Aquarius, but it's almost in Pisces, right? Her Venus is in Aries, which sextiles Freddie's Venus in Aquarius. And again, sextiles his moon in Gemini. So there's this element of friendship, of companionship, of camaraderie. Like, they're not just lovers, they are literally best friends. You can see that ease in which they relate to each other plainly with the sextile. My astrology mentor, Kelly Surtees, likes to think of sextiles as two people holding hands and skipping, like that image of just utter joy and contentment and this desire to be yourself next to this person who is not going to judge you because they're being themselves too, and you bring out that sense of comfort in them. And that's incredibly important for relating. You can see that her Venus opposes his Pluto, and that can bring sexual tension, that can bring its own set of challenges. And in and of itself, somebody can say, oh, Venus opposing Pluto, that's not a good aspect, that's a bad aspect. But gosh, it's a one challenging aspect in the middle of all these beautiful sextiles and your house of partnerships being activated. Her Jupiter squares his Mercury. So that just tells me that, his communication and her grand dreams and desires might sometimes have to be leveled with. So she can be like a helium balloon, right? And he could be the string that grounds her, or vice versa. He can be the helium balloon and she's the string that grounds him. So that's not necessarily a bad square either. That just means that they literally keep each other in check. They're realistic and they make sure that the other is realistic too. So again, these are great placements to have for longevity. Okay, their Mars placements square each other. Her Mars is in Pisces, his Mars is in Gemini, but his Mars sextiles her sun. So again, you've got these challenging Mars, aspects that by themselves can be like, oh, I don't know, should I go forth with this relationship? But they are buffered by these wonderful sextiles to the sun and Mars. Her Mars conjuncts his sun, but it also trines his Saturn. And right there is one of the key longevity aspects. Positive placements with Saturn usually lead to longevity. And so for better or worse, right? You can want longevity and be stuck in a bad situation, or you can enjoy longevity in a great situation. So this is an example of, Saturn aspects that are positive. Her Saturn, okay, here's her Saturn, sextiles his moon and Mars, and it trines his Jupiter, right? Like, where's his Jupiter? His Jupiter, there's his Jupiter, right? So her Saturn is touching Moon, Mars, and Jupiter. Moon and Mars are personal planets. Jupiter is an outside planet. And it's making positive aspects. So again, multiple positive aspects to Saturn bode well. Her sun may square his Saturn, or her sun does actually square his Saturn. So here's her sun, there's her Saturn, they form a square. And that can be a challenging aspect, but it's a challenging aspect that actually promotes growth. So again, even with a challenging aspect, they are pushing each other to grow. And ultimately, isn't that why you want to be in a long-term relationship? So that you can grow as a person and so that you can grow and evolve as a couple. So now I want to look at some other sweet asteroids that aren't necessarily talked about, but that I think are important in Synastry, and that is Ceres. Ceres is the asteroid of nurturing and affection. It's a maternal planet. So if someone doesn't have good aspects to their moon from their partner, I tend to look at Ceres. His Ceres, which this is what it looks like. His Ceres is right here. It looks like a question mark. His Ceres conjuncts her Jupiter. And you want to see something really beautiful. Her Ceres conjuncts his asteroid child, which is his inner child. So her maternal affection, the asteroid of unconditional love, which is Ceres, is conjuncting his asteroid that is basically indicative of his inner child. She nurtures his inner child. That feeling of love, that feeling of safety, that feeling of security he must feel by her side also helps to alleviate any pressure points they might feel in their relationship. And with his Jupiter and her Ceres, he's expanding that nurturing side of her. Like, he brings it out of her even more, which is beautiful. Like, it's a very beautiful, loving, nurturing relationship. Her moon forms an inconjunct or a quincunx to his Pluto. That can be a little challenging. However, they have such beautiful Ceres placements that any negativity by moon and Pluto that comes from that inconjunct is again offset. So here are those aspects again. She's an Aries sun. He's a Pisces sun. You can't look at a person's sun sign for compatibility because that will tell you nothing. And that is why synastry and composite readings are important, because you need to look at what's deeper. And what matters are moon placements, Mercury placements, Venus and Mars. So if we look at, Aries and Pisces, oh, they don't go together. Well, that's not true, because she's an Aries Pisces moon and he's a Pisces Gemini sun. Aries and Gemini love each other. They're like partners in crime. And Pisces, like their sun, his ego is conjunct to her emotional safety. She, on an emotional level, gets him. And he, on an emotional level, gets her, right? So to recap, Sarah and Freddie have square moons and square Mars aspects, but they have a beautiful amount of trines and sextiles that make those challenging aspects work. They also have great Pluto and Saturn aspects that positively touch their inner planets that lead into that longevity. I didn't go into Neptune aspects too much because I don't know Sarah's rising sign, and so I didn't want to get lost in the details, but there are lots of Neptune aspects between the two that are positive that make this a romantic relationship. So I'm not surprised that they've endured for 18 years. Thanks so much, friends. Bye.